computer. Okay, well, I'd like to welcome everybody. Today we are going to talk about golf rules that everybody should know. And as we're getting into golf season, there are two main reasons why you should know the rules of golf. The first is if you are competing in any sort of tournament or league, you are expected to follow the rules of golf. And the second reason is if you are maintaining a handicap, and you can answer in chat, if you do have a handicap account, when you enter your scores into the computer, those scores must be obtained by following the rules of golf. So if you're not following the rules, your score is not valid. There is a third reason. Even if you're not keeping score, it's important to be aware of the rules. So if you're out there on a casual day playing with people who are keeping score and are following the rules, you might want to know what they are so you don't interfere with them, as you will learn about in a minute. Now, who sets the rules of golf? There are two governing bodies. One is the USGA, which is the United States Golf Association, and they do that in partnership with the R&A, which is a Scotland-based rules organization. So the two groups get together, and the rules that they've created affect everybody worldwide. Your local golf course may also add some rules. On the back of your scorecard, they may have what's called local rules, things that you're allowed to do on that particular course. Or if you're playing in a tournament, like a lot of times people come to Women on Course, we'll make up extra rules or we'll bend rules so you can play the game. Now, just before COVID, about 30 of the rules were changed. Some are small and some are very significant. So the rules do change. And as I learned that rules changed again at the beginning of this year, 2014. Okay, so what we're going to do in the next 50 minutes is I'm going to share some common situations that you're going to find yourself in. We're not going to sit here and read a rule book, which is very dry and boring. It's like, where do you find yourself on the golf course and what rule applies? Okay, so as a beginner, I started playing golf with three gentlemen that were very good. They kept score, they had handicaps, they were probably under a 10, which means they're scoring par, they're right around par, a little over par. So they were keeping score and following the rules. So the second time out, I bring a couple golf balls, I lose them all. So by the fifth hole, I ran out of golf balls. So what I did is I borrowed from my boyfriend at the time, my cart partner, and I borrowed a white golf ball. We both hit our drives, and wouldn't you know it, because I was from the forward tee, it's not called the ladies' tee, it's the forward tee, my ball ended up close to his ball. So I drive up, I get there first, and I pick up the ball and I look at it, trying to figure out if it's mine. Looks like mine, it's white, put it down, and I hit the ball. All right, inadvertently, I broke two important rules. No wonder they were having a fit back there. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here as we talk about what rules I broke, because I had no idea that I broke a rule. Okay, let's see, where am I on this thing here? Go to the beginning here. All right, so I broke rule 15-1. The first part of that rule is that I picked up the ball in the middle of playing a hole. So you're not allowed to pick up your ball, except very, very certain situations. So when you pick up your ball, you incur a 1-stroke penalty. You can't clean it off. You can't replace it with a different ball. You have to use the ball and you can't pick it up. Now, if you're unsure if the ball is yours, like in this case, there were two white balls. You can pick up the ball if you do this. You have to declare to the people, I am picking up the ball to see if it's my ball. You have to say that. It sounds stupid. But if you say that first and you mark the position with a little T or a ball marker, you can pick up the ball, you can look at it, see if it's yours, and then put it back in that spot. You don't get a penalty if you do that. The second rule that I broke is I hit the wrong ball. Okay, I hit my partner's ball. So what happens in that case is that there's a rule, which is 15-1, whatever ball you start the hole with, you must finish with that ball. So what you would do is, let's say you played that ball all the way to the end with the wrong ball. You have to go back to the point where your ball originally was left. You'd have to go back there. First of all, you have to get 2 strokes added. So let's say your drive is 1, you add 2 more penalty strokes. So when you hit that second shot with your correct ball, you're really hitting the 4th shot. So the sooner you realize you're playing with the wrong ball, the better. You have to go back to the original spot. Any strokes you used hitting the wrong ball does not count. Okay, so for the other person whose ball you hit, like if I hit my partner's ball, they would have to get that ball back and put it back where it was. They don't incur any penalties, just you. Now, if you look closely at a sleeve of golf balls, you will notice a dozen white golf balls, they have numbers on each sleeve. So the ones on the first sleeve, 2, 3, 4. It took me 5 years of golf before I realized this. The reason they do that is so if you are splitting a dozen or you're borrowing a ball, take a ball with a different number so that you can look at the ball and see that it's not yours. You can also write on your balls all over the place. You can put stickers, you can put hearts, you can put your name on it. You're allowed to write on your ball to make ball identification easier. Okay, so do not hit the wrong ball and do not pick up your ball. Okay, let's talk about places where you are going to land on the golf course. Okay, so the most common places you're going to find your ball. Now, whether you're learning or you're a brand new golfer or you're very avid, you're going to find yourself in some very unusual places and people go, what do I do? Okay, so let's start with the screen share here. Kind of helps us keep where we are at. Okay, common places the ball will land. Believe me, I have landed in all these places. All right, we're going to start with rule 13. Okay, so no matter where your ball lands, you cannot move it to improve the conditions. So in other words, you're trying to stay in the fairway. If you're in the rough, you can't move it into the fairway. Okay, if you're in the sand, you can't move it out of the sand. If you're on a piece of dirt, let's say there's a weed or dirt in the fairway, you can't move it to improve your conditions. So that's a basic rule. Where it lies is where you have to hit it. Okay, but we're first going to talk about the sand. That's a big obstacle there. So true or false question, ladies, if you get your chat ready, if your ball lands in the sand and your club touches the sand during your practice shot, you will incur a penalty. True or false? I'm sharing the screen, so I can't really see true or false, but the answer is true. You cannot touch the sand with your club before you hit the ball. It's considered cheating because you're kind of testing the conditions of the ground and you're not allowed to do that. So most golfers know that you have to be very careful when you enter a sand trap. It's called no grounding the club. You can't ground the club. All right. Now, it used to be that you couldn't remove anything like leaves or pebbles, but there's a new rule now. You can move impediments. Okay, so if there is something like the rake or there's a big leap, you can move, it's called movable objects. You can move the rake, but you have to put the ball back where it landed. Okay, because the point is to play out of the sand. You can move different things, leaves and pebbles. You weren't, it used to be you couldn't do that, but now you are allowed to do that. So you're basically just challenging yourself with the sand. Okay, so for beginners, you're going to be here a lot. I encourage if you're not keeping score, just take your ball, throw it out in the fairway. Don't worry about hitting it out of the sand. All right, let's talk about out of bounds. So you're going to see on a golf course a lot of these white stakes. White stakes signify what's out of bounds. Now, this is something that people I see do often. Their ball lands out of bounds. So the ball here is on the left side. That is out of bounds. And you see the nice fairway to the right side. A lot of people will just say, you know what, I'm just going to hit it from here. You are not allowed to do that. So when you are out of bounds, you automatically get a 1-stroke penalty. But where do you hit the ball next? You cannot hit it from this spot. No matter how tempting it is, if you do hit it, you take your 1 stroke, you put it back in play, you are actually cheating and your score does not count. All right, so there are three things that you need to do. You need to take the ball back to the place where you originally hit it. That's where it goes. So if you're on the tee box and you know it's out of bounds, rather than get all the way down there, take a stroke, and now you hit a second tee shot. That is your third shot. Okay. If it's called a provisional, let's say you're not sure if it's inbounds or out of bounds because you have to get close to see. You can tell everybody, look, I'm going to take a second provisional shot, meaning if we get down there and I find out my ball's out of bounds, I'm going to be taking this second shot that I just hit. I'm going to take my penalty, but I'm using it. So it saves time than running back. You can imagine how much time it's going to take if you have to run back. And if your first ball is in bounds, then you go ahead and use it. Okay, so that's what a provisional shot is. Anytime you think that your ball is unplayable, you can go ahead, because a lot of these rules are take the ball back to where you originally hit it. Okay, so out of bounds, do not hit it from out of bounds. You must go back. Okay, a sprinkler head. You will find these all around the golf course. They tell you, the number tells you how far it is to the center of the green. So a sprinkler head is considered what's called an immovable object. This is something that has been placed on the golf course on purpose to help you play the game. You get what's called free relief. There's no penalty. And remember I said earlier, you cannot move your ball. This is one of the situations where you are allowed to pick up your ball and put it somewhere else without a penalty. So what are some examples of an immovable object? That could be a plaque on the course that tells you that's 100 yards. It could be a stake in the ground that tells you it's 100 yards. It could be the tee markers, because sometimes people play real far back and they might hit a tee marker on the forward tee. Sometimes courses have little signs that say, get your cart off, you're getting too close to the green. So those are all things that are placed on the golf course that are not able to be moved. They're immovable. One of the biggest immovable objects is the cart path. That is considered an immovable object. And if you land on the cart path, you do get free relief. All right, so let's say you're on one of these immovable objects or you're near one of these immovable objects. Where do you put the ball? Okay, so first of all, free relief, let me go back. Where the ball lands, you can move it. But let's say the ball's in a good spot, but you're going to stand where an immovable object is in your way. You still get to move the ball. Or if you're going to swing your club and you're going to hit an immovable object, like a post or a stake, you get to move your ball. So if any of these three things happen, where it lands, where you're going to stand, like a lot of times your foot is going to be on the cart path, you get to move the ball. Even if your ball's safe, you get to move, or you're going to swing your club. Okay, so you move the ball. It's allowed to go one club length away, but no closer to the hole. So if you make sort of a semicircle, a half a circle, one club length away, no closer to the hole. Okay, and it's also important that if you put your club length away and you're going to be moving from the rough to the fairway, can't do that because you're improving your lie. Okay, so when you do move this ball, it has to stay in the same conditions. See, we're going back to that first rule that I told you. You have to stay in the same conditions. Okay, so if your ball's in the rough, it has to stay in the rough. Now, there are things called movable objects, like we talked about before, which is your rake or a pebble or something like that. You can move those too. Okay, there's no penalty for these things. Okay, so now I'm gonna stop the share a little bit. Did I confuse all of you right there? Okay, so that's pretty cool. Now this next rule, I wish I knew about this when I was starting to play golf. It's called the unplayable lie. Okay, now this is when a ball is not out of bounds, where you have to move it, right? It's not anywhere near an immovable object, but the ball lands in a place that's really hard to hit the ball. Okay, now if you're willing to pay the price of a one-stroke penalty, you literally can claim unplayable lie and move your ball anywhere you want on the golf course, anywhere you want. And the person that determines it's unplayable is you. Now, you know why I would have loved this rule when I first started playing golf. So let me show you an example of where I would call unplayable lie. All righty. This situation. So my ball is behind a tree. Okay. It's immovable, but it's not artificial. Remember, an immovable object is an artificial thing. This is a nature. You can't move it, but you have to play the ball here. So this is where I would call immovable, unplayable lie. I can't hit the ball from here. I'm going to take a one-stroke penalty and I'm going to move the ball. You can use it anywhere you want, one stroke. Now, if you're thinking ahead, the sand was really hard. They have thought ahead too. If you want to move it out of the sand, you take a two-stroke penalty. Okay, so it's 2 strokes to be here. So it's a bit subjective. Again, you get to decide. All right. So where do you put the ball in an unplayable lie? So for the unplayable lie, you have 3 choices. You get to move it 2 club lengths away. Again, if you're going to swing your club and you're going to hit a bush or a tree, unplayable lie. If you're standing someone weird, so you get to move it 2 club lengths away. You get to take it back to where your original shot was, which is going to eat up a lot of time. So again, if you're standing somewhere and you see that the ball landed in a bush, you can see it, you know it. You know you're going to call unplayable lie. You can hit the ball again with your one-stroke penalty. The other thing you can do is you can take the ball back. So you line up the hole, you line up where the ball is, and you go back as far as you want until you feel it's a good place and drop it. So you don't have to go back to your original shot, but you can go back as far as you like till you say, this looks good. You can drop it there and take your one-stroke penalty. So again, this is a really great rule for people that don't like where the ball landed. Okay, water. Water is a big obstacle. Obviously, if you land in the water, you're not going to be able to play the ball. So there are rules for when the ball lands in the water. You are going to take a penalty stroke. Okay. And there's a rule 17. Okay. Now, this rule is calling water a penalty area. So when you land in a penalty area, there's a bunch of different rules. They're kind of nuanced on how it crosses to get in the water. But what I want you to know about this is when you land in a penalty area, you have a one-stroke penalty. And where you put the ball, you get to put a new ball down and continue your game. All right, so you can go back to the original place you hit it from. That seems to always be one of your options. You can always go back to where you hit it from. You can drop a new ball. Now, where you drop that new ball is a little complicated. There's several guidelines on where to drop it. So the water hazard is going to be either marked as a red or a yellow hazard. Okay, red or yellow. And you're going to know that by the stakes around the water. Yellow hazard is when the water runs alongside you. Okay, it's not in your direct path. Red is lateral. I'm sorry. Yellow is when it's right in front of you. It's right across from you. You have to hit over water. It's in your way. And red is when it's alongside you. So in some cases, the golf course will actually have a spot where you will drop the ball to keep it easy, because a lot of people don't know where to drop the ball. I'm not going to go into that in this presentation because that's really complicated and you have to sort of be on a golf course to see. So if you land in the water, take it back to the original spot, drop it at a designated point at the golf course. And then if not, you can go ahead and read about 17 penalty area and see where to drop it, because there's little pictures where to put it, but it's usually it talks about where the ball crossed over from land into water. That's sort of the path and where you have to place it. Little complicated. Okay, so we talked about the unplayable lies, the two club lengths. That's kind of out of order. We talked about the water. Those are ones I'm going to stop the share now. Okay. So we talked about the water. We talked about unplayable lies. Let's talk about landing on the green. Okay, there are quite a few rules when you land on the green. One of them is, remember I said at the beginning, you cannot pick up your ball during play except in certain situations. You are allowed to pick up your ball when it lands on the green. Now, there's a certain procedure on when and how you pick it up. First thing you do before you pick up the ball is you will mark the ball. So you've seen people with little ball markers. It can be a penny. It can be a ball marker that you bought, something flat and round usually. What you do is you draw an invisible line between the hole and your ball, and standing behind your ball, that's where you place your ball marker, behind the ball, not to the side, not in front, has to be behind. Then when it's there, you can pick it up. Okay, why do you need to pick up your ball? Why would you pick up your ball? 3 reasons. You can clean it off. If there's sand or dirt on it, you want the ball to roll smoothly, you can clean it off. You can put the ball back and line it up. So a lot of these balls have lines on them, or you've put a line on them, and to aim, and believe me, the best putting lesson I ever got was when you put your ball back, line up the line going in the path you want to go. So when you line up your putter and your ball and you get all the lines lined up, if you take that ball, that stroke back and through the correct speed, you're going to land in the hole or very close to it almost every time. So it's I'm a fast golfer because I'm always catching up with people. So that tip, taking the time to put it back and lining it up has really saved me because it's shaved a lot of putts off my score. The third reason to pick it up is maybe you don't need to pick it up. You don't need to clean it off. You don't want to aim it, but you see everybody else marking their balls. It's a good idea to do it because a lot of people want to get out there. They're in their head. They want to just see their ball in the hole. They don't want to see your bright colored balls all over the place. It distracts them. So pick up your ball after you mark it. Now, when you put the ball back, make sure you put it back in front of the ball marker. There was an LPGA golf pro. She was winning the tournament and she marked her ball improperly. She put the ball marker in front of her ball. And when she put the ball back, she put the ball in front of the marker. It's considered cheating and she was disqualified. Believe me, when you're in a tournament and the stakes count, the prizes are big, people are watching you. So make sure you follow all these rules. What do you do if your ball is in the way of other people? So as you may know, etiquette, the person furthest from the hole goes next. So when you're on a putting green, if you're close to the hole and someone's directly behind you, there's a different way to mark the ball, because if you put your ball marker down, you're in the way. So what you do in this case is you use your putter head and you are allowed to move your ball one putter head to the right or the left and put your marker there. And usually you're supposed to line it up with a tree or something like that. So when you put a measure to put it back, you're in the right spot. Okay. So that's sort of some rules there. They have changed the rules about the flag stick. It used to be that you had to remove the flag stick to putt. Now to keep golf faster, you're allowed to keep the flag stick in. So you can keep it in. If you hit the stick and it goes in, that is allowable. Okay, so that's the green. Now some other common things that may happen to you. All right, I see this a lot. If you stand up to your ball and you take a swing, a legitimate swing, that counts as a stroke. You can't claim it's a practice swing. Everybody knows it's not a practice swing. That counts. All right, and at Women on Course, we like to call it the one and done rule, especially if you're not keeping score. Don't hang and swing and swing and swing. So again, this is where you're going to annoy other people because in golf, following the rules, one swing counts as a stroke. Keep counting those swings. All right, lost balls. This is another very interesting rule. According to the rules of golf, you have 3 minutes to find your lost ball. 3 minutes. Now, when you consider that your entire group should be on any given hole for 15 or 16 minutes tops, that gives each person 4 minutes to play the game on that hole. So if you spend 3 minutes looking for your ball, guess what? You're not going to be able to finish. So at Women on Course, we advise you to take 30 seconds. I call it the 30-second rule. If you don't find the ball in 30 seconds, drop another ball. And as you'll see with these rules, it takes a very long time to play golf if you're not that good, because you're constantly hitting balls, you're going back, you're figuring things out. You're going to chew up a lot of time. And it's dawned on me since COVID that courses are asking you to play your rounds faster. Some courses, we're going to Torrey Pines in June, they're asking the groups to finish in 4 hours. If you divide that by 18 holes, that's not a lot of time. And if you're keeping score, let's say your typical score is going to be 2 over par. Okay, so let's say you're getting 6s and 7s, and everyone in your group is getting a 6 or a 7. If everyone in your group got a 6, 6 times 4, that's 24 shots. And that's if people are hitting with nothing, no time in between. That's 24 minutes. So it's sort of a conundrum with the golf industry. How do they expect average people to keep score and follow these rules and finish in the time they expect you to do so? It's not working. It really doesn't work. So people really don't like this. When I say this, I get these women out to beautiful courses. I'm saying, ladies, if you're used to keeping score, and if you're not able to break 100, or if you can't score in the 90s, please don't keep score, because you're going to back up the whole golf course. They hate that I say that because they paid a lot of money to play these bucket list courses, but it's the only way it works, especially when you have 90 people playing and they're all about the same level. So, it's a problem. Provisional balls, we talked about that. Most of these rules involve going back to the place where you hit the ball. So if you can save time, always hit that provisional shot and let people know it's provisional. And last, this rule is newer, and this saves people. The most you can put on your scorecard is 5 over par. So if it's a par 3, you can't write down a 9, can't write down 12s and 10. So the most you can see on a scorecard is a 10, right? If it's par 5, 10. In the old days, people were writing 11s, 12s, you'd be out there all day. So that is a new rule. And if you do have a handicap, and I was just on a 3-hour call yesterday about handicaps. That's how long it took to explain it to us. For a handicap, let me just, for a handicap, you have to enter 54 holes of golf into the computer. It's basically 3 rounds of 18. But once you've entered 54 holes of golf, you get a handicap, and that will dictate the maximum score you can write down. And they also talk about in your handicap, if you're playing 18 holes and you get to 12 and there's a thunderstorm and they get you off the course, what do you do on your scorecard? They have a new thing, I don't know if it's so new, but it's called the expected score. So they basically will fill in your scorecard. The computer will fill in your scorecard based on what you would have shot based on your handicap. So a lot of people who are newer at golf, they're not great at golf. They're always asking, should I establish a handicap? Because I'm going to have to record these scores following these rules. You can't cheat. You have to follow the rules. So I would say, don't sign up for a handicap system unless you can start legitimately shooting 2 over par, 2 or 3 over par. Because if you're going 4 or 5 over par, you're not finishing in time. And if you really want to keep score and you really want to follow these rules, I encourage you to go at the twilight time, go when the course is slow. Don't go out there on Saturday morning at 8 o'clock. Don't go out there at Sunday. Pick a time where it's slower so that there's not people breathing down your neck, because you're going to have to abandon the rules. Okay. That is as much as I want to tell you right now because it's a lot. But I just want to get you kind of familiar with rules. And how many of you, you can put in chat, how many of you are playing in leagues in chat? You can write yes or no. This is league season. A lot of people are signing up for leagues, and leagues are kind of good because you're getting used to the rules. There's scorekeepers. Golf is a game of honesty, and it is up to the golfer to write her score down. So if someone tells you you're cheating, um, again, if you're turning in your scorecard for a tournament or a handicap, the tournament chairman gets to call you on it. In fact, they're supposed to do a yearly review of your scorecards. They're supposed to collect your scorecards, and they're supposed to make sure that you're actually doing the rules. So not to be afraid of the rules, but there is a lot to it. So I'm going to open it up for chat. Any questions about what we talked about? A lot of times I'll bring a golf pro on here and they get asked the question and the golf pro does not know the answer. They have to look it up. So a lot of people look it up. Your pro shop can look up answers. I've played in tournaments where nobody knows the rule. Call the pro shop. Sometimes people are keeping 2 scores because they don't know and they don't want to be disqualified. And you see at professional tournaments, there are rules officials that come out and they're always looking in the book and delay of game. We're not that serious, but I'm not seeing on chat. Is anybody, oh, here we go. Do you want to talk attesting the scorecard? Yes. So for a handicap, like I said, they expect you to post your score the day you write down the scorecard. The reason you do that is because at midnight, they recalculate your handicap. And they're also calculating if 10 scores were turned in that day for the golf course. If it was playing harder or easier, they're going to do a differential. This is very complicated, but they're doing a lot of things like that. So people can attest your scorecard. They can sign it for you. A little bit about golf cart etiquette. Yes, I love talking about golf cart etiquette. When I started playing golf, I never drove the cart because there's a lot to know about it. First of all, you want to make sure that you're not making noise. And if you go in reverse, beep, 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 beep. So you want to make sure that when you're going in reverse, there's no one around you to hear you. You want to stay on your cart path until it's okay to drive on the golf course. And when you go to a golf course, there's always a starter, and that person will tell you if there are any special rules for your golf cart. But here's how it works. You stay off the tee box. You drive down the path until you see the post. That means, all right, it's time to drive onto your golf cart course. Usually you go at a 90-degree angle, right angle. They change the post every day so that you're not wearing thin the grass. And then when you get to the green, there typically is a sign that says golf carts need to exit. Now at my club, they have those signs, but a lot of clubs do not have a sign. That does not mean you have free reign. You can drive right up to the golf green and drive on it. You still, unspoken rule, you have to stay about 25 to 30 yards from the green. So you need to exit. So that's a little bit, if it's a lot. Some golf courses do not allow you to drive your carts into the parking lot. If they're managed by a computer system, it will stop. The electricity will stop. I've had that happen to me. Ma'am, you're not allowed to be on the golf. Get back over here. I didn't know what I was doing. Because at my course, I can drive right up to my car and put my clubs in. I'm going to stop the recording here just so